What if the real front line of national sovereignty is not only guarded by soldiers, but also cultivated by farmers? In Burkina Faso, that idea is becoming a powerful national message. Under the leadership of Ibrahim Traore, agriculture is being presented not as a secondary rural activity, but as a central pillar of independence. The wheat fields are no longer seen as simple farmland. They are becoming symbols of resistance, discipline, and national dignity. For years, Burkina Faso has depended heavily on imported wheat to meet domestic demand. That dependence creates a serious weakness. When global prices rise, transport routes are disrupted, or foreign suppliers change their terms, ordinary families feel the pressure immediately through the price of bread and other basic foods. A country that cannot secure its own essential food supply remains exposed to decisions made far beyond its borders. This is why wheat has become more than a crop. It has become part of a wider struggle for economic security. Producing more wheat at home can reduce dependence on imports, protect limited foreign currency reserves, create rural employment, and give local communities greater control over their future. The deeper message is simple. National sovereignty is incomplete when a country must rely on outsiders for the food its people eat every day. A flag, an army, and political independence are important, but true. A strength also comes from the ability to feed the population during difficult times. Burkina Faso is now trying to change that reality by placing farmers at the center of the national effort. Each new field represents more than a harvest. It represents fewer risks from foreign shocks, more income for local families, and a stronger foundation for national survival. If you believe Africa's future will be built by people who work the land, protect local resources, and create real economic independence, follow this channel as we examine the changes reshaping the continent. The question is no longer whether agriculture matters. The question is whether Burkina Faso can turn every farmer into a defender of sovereignty and every harvest into a victory for the nation. For Ibrahim Traore, national sovereignty is not defined solely by the strength of an army or the protection of national borders. It also depends on whether a country can feed its own people, strengthen its economy, and reduce its dependence on outside powers. That belief has become one of the central ideas behind Burkina Faso's growing campaign to expand domestic wheat production, transforming agriculture into an essential part of the nation's long-term development strategy. For decades, Burkina Faso relied heavily on imported wheat to satisfy domestic demand. This dependence left the country vulnerable to global price increases, supply chain disruptions, transportation difficulties, and international market uncertainty. Whenever imported wheat became more expensive, ordinary families immediately felt the impact through rising food prices. Reducing this vulnerability has therefore become more than an agricultural objective. It has become a question of national resilience. Instead of treating wheat farming as the responsibility of farmers alone, the government has promoted the idea that producing food is a shared national mission. Every new hectare planted with wheat represents another step toward reducing imports, keeping more financial resources inside the country, and strengthening Burkina Faso's ability to withstand future economic shocks. Under this vision, agriculture is closely connected to national security and economic independence. This new perspective also changes the role of the farmer. Farmers are no longer viewed simply as producers supplying local markets. They are presented as active contributors to the country's future, helping build food security through their daily work. Every successful harvest supports local communities, creates opportunities for rural families, and moves the country closer to greater self-reliance. The strategy reflects a broader understanding of modern sovereignty. Political independence alone cannot guarantee long-term stability if a nation remains dependent on imported food for essential needs. By increasing domestic wheat production, Burkina Faso hopes to strengthen its capacity to face external challenges using its own resources. For Ibrahim Traore, this vision is about far more than growing wheat. It is about building national confidence, encouraging citizens to participate in the country's development, and proving that lasting sovereignty begins with the ability to produce, protect, and sustain the essentials of everyday life. In this approach, every farmer becomes part of a larger national effort, and every harvest becomes another step toward a stronger, more independent Burkina Faso. The government's vision could not succeed through speeches alone. If Burkina Faso wanted to reduce its dependence on imported wheat, farmers needed more than encouragement. They needed practical support that would allow them to plant more land, improve productivity, and reduce the financial risks of trying a crop that had traditionally been imported rather than widely cultivated. For that reason, the National Wheat Campaign was built around direct government assistance instead of relying solely on individual investments. One of the first priorities was reducing the cost of production. Many small farmers simply could not afford modern equipment, quality seeds, irrigation systems, or sufficient fertilizer. Without those resources, expanding wheat cultivation would remain an impossible goal. To overcome these barriers, the government introduced measures that included land preparation assistance, improved seed distribution, fertilizer support, irrigation equipment, and technical supervision throughout the growing season. Another important feature of the program was the presence of agricultural technicians in the fields. Rather than remaining in offices or providing advice from a distance, technical specialists worked alongside farmers during planting, irrigation, crop management, and harvesting. This approach allowed problems to be identified quickly while giving producers greater confidence to adopt new farming methods. Practical demonstrations often proved more convincing than classroom instruction, helping farmers understand that wheat cultivation could become a realistic and profitable opportunity. Government support also helped reduce uncertainty. Growing a relatively new crop always involves risks, especially when farmers worry about weather conditions, production costs, or market demand. By sharing part of those risks through public assistance, authorities encouraged more producers to participate in the national campaign. As confidence increased, many farmers became willing to expand their cultivated land and invest more time in wheat production. This partnership between the state and rural communities created a different model of agricultural development. Instead of asking farmers to solve every challenge alone, the government positioned itself as an active partner working toward the same objective. The result was not simply an increase in wheat production, but the gradual construction of trust between public institutions and farming families. That trust became one of the most valuable foundations of the entire initiative, demonstrating that national development is often strongest when government and citizens work side by side toward a common purpose. The first wheat fields were never expected to transform Burkina Faso overnight. Like many ambitious national programs, the initiative began on a limited scale, allowing farmers, agricultural experts, and government officials to evaluate whether wheat could be successfully cultivated under local conditions. The objective was not simply to achieve one good harvest. It was to prove that domestic wheat production could become a realistic foundation for greater food security and economic independence. The early results provided encouraging signs. Farmers who participated in the initial projects discovered that with improved seeds, technical guidance, and proper irrigation, wheat could produce reliable yields in suitable areas. These successes quickly attracted the attention of neighboring communities. Producers who had once questioned whether wheat was worth planting began visiting demonstration fields, speaking with experienced farmers, and considering whether they should join the next planting season. As confidence grew, the program gradually expanded beyond its pilot locations. More land was prepared for cultivation. Additional producers joined the initiative, and local authorities increased efforts to support the expansion. The movement was no longer limited to a handful of experimental farms. It was becoming a broader agricultural campaign involving communities that shared the same goal of reducing dependence on imported wheat. One important reason for this steady growth was the visible evidence of success. Farmers tend to trust practical results more than promises. When they saw healthy crops standing in neighboring fields and heard first-hand accounts from producers who had successfully completed a harvest, many became more willing to invest their own time and resources. The program therefore expanded through demonstration as much as through government policy. This gradual expansion also reflected a practical strategy. Rather than attempting to increase production too quickly, Burkina Faso focused on building experience, improving farming techniques, and strengthening local confidence before encouraging wider participation. Each successful season created valuable knowledge that could be shared with new producers, reducing uncertainty and improving future harvests. By growing step by step instead of seeking immediate nationwide transformation, Burkina Faso laid a stronger foundation for long-term development. The expansion of wheat cultivation became more than an increase in cultivated land. It became evidence that sustainable national progress often begins with small successes that inspire thousands of others to follow the same path. Expanding wheat production required more than increasing the number of fields. Long-term success depended on something even more important: producing reliable wheat seeds inside Burkina Faso itself. If farmers continued relying on imported seeds every planting season, the country would remain dependent on foreign suppliers. Building a domestic seed system therefore became a critical step toward achieving lasting food sovereignty. The government, together with agricultural research institutions and experienced producers, began supporting the development of local seed production. Instead of focusing only on commercial harvests, selected farms were encouraged to grow certified seed that could be distributed to farmers in future planting seasons. This approach would gradually reduce dependence on imported seed while ensuring that local producers had access to varieties suited to Burkina Faso's climate and farming conditions. Private entrepreneurs also became part of this effort. Some agricultural specialists invested in seed production businesses, combining technical knowledge with practical farming experience. Their work demonstrated that local companies could contribute not only to agricultural production, but also to the country's broader strategy for self-reliance. By producing quality seed within Burkina Faso, they helped strengthen an essential part of the agricultural supply chain. Developing a domestic seed industry offers several long-term advantages. Farmers gain easier access to planting material, transportation costs can be reduced, and the country becomes less vulnerable to international supply disruptions. Local seed production also allows researchers to improve varieties over time, selecting crops that perform better under local weather conditions while maintaining stable yields. Perhaps most importantly, this investment represents a shift in national thinking. Burkina Faso is not simply trying to grow more wheat today. It is working to build the foundations that will allow future generations to continue producing wheat without relying heavily on external sources. Strong agriculture begins with strong seeds, and strong seeds begin with local knowledge, scientific research, and consistent investment. By developing its own seed production capacity, Burkina Faso moves one step closer to controlling the entire agricultural process from planting to harvest. This strategy transforms wheat cultivation from a temporary campaign into a long-term national project designed to strengthen food security, expand economic independence, and ensure that future harvests are supported by resources produced within the country itself. Modern agriculture depends not only on land and equipment but also on people. No matter how much a government invests in seeds, irrigation, or machinery, lasting success is impossible without skilled farmers who understand how to use those resources effectively. Recognizing this reality, Burkina Faso placed strong emphasis on technical training and field support as part of its national wheat development strategy. Instead of limiting agricultural specialists to administrative offices, The program encouraged technicians to work directly alongside farmers. They visited fields during every stage of production, from preparing the soil and planting seeds to managing irrigation, controlling weeds, and monitoring crop development. Their role was not simply to provide instructions, but to solve problems together with producers under real farming conditions. This hands-on approach created several important advantages. Farmers received immediate guidance whenever they encountered difficulties, allowing them to make timely adjustments that could improve crop performance. At the same time, technicians gained valuable practical experience by observing how different farming methods perform under local conditions. The exchange of knowledge became a two-way process in which both experts and producers learned from one another. Working side by side also helped build trust. Many farmers are naturally cautious about adopting unfamiliar crops or changing traditional farming practices. Seeing agricultural specialists actively participating in fieldwork gave producers greater confidence that the recommended techniques had been tested in real conditions rather than developed only through theory. Practical demonstrations often proved far more persuasive than written guidelines or classroom training. The program also encouraged experienced farmers to share their knowledge with neighboring communities. As successful harvests became more common, local producers began exchanging advice on planting schedules, irrigation methods, and crop management. This informal transfer of experience strengthened the movement beyond official training programs and helped spread confidence throughout rural areas. By combining scientific knowledge with practical field experience, Burkina Faso created a stronger foundation for expanding wheat production. The country was not simply teaching farmers how to grow a new crop. It was building a nationwide network of knowledge, cooperation, and shared responsibility. Every technician working in the field, every experienced farmer sharing advice, and every producer willing to adopt new methods became part of a larger effort to strengthen food security and support the country's journey toward greater agricultural independence. Producing more wheat is only one part of Burkina Faso's broader vision. Equally important is ensuring that the harvest creates value inside the country instead of living through unfinished supply chains. A nation that grows wheat but still depends on imported flour or foreign processing facilities cannot fully capture the economic benefits of its own agricultural production. For this reason, Burkina Faso has begun looking beyond the farm toward the development of a stronger domestic agricultural economy. A complete wheat industry requires far more than successful harvest. Grain must be transported, stored, milled, processed, and delivered to businesses that produce bread, pasta, and other food products. Every stage creates opportunities for local companies, skilled workers, transport services, equipment suppliers, and food manufacturers. As these industries expand, the benefits of agriculture spread far beyond farming communities and contribute to broader economic growth. Developing a domestic processing sector also allows more value to remain inside the national economy. Instead of exporting raw agricultural products or relying heavily on imported flour, Burkina Faso can gradually strengthen local businesses capable of transforming wheat into finished products. This creates new jobs, encourages private investment, and reduces the country's dependence on international suppliers for essential food products. The expansion of the wheat value chain also supports long-term economic resilience. Storage facilities help protect harvests from post-production losses. Milling companies create stable demand for local grain. Food manufacturers gain greater access to domestic raw materials. Together, these connections build a more integrated agricultural system that benefits producers, businesses, and consumers alike. Perhaps most importantly, the development of a complete wheat industry demonstrates that agriculture is no longer viewed as an isolated rural activity. It becomes a driving force for industrial development, entrepreneurship, and national economic transformation. Every successful harvest creates opportunities not only for farmers, but also for truck drivers, warehouse operators, mill workers, engineers, retailers, and countless small businesses connected to the supply chain. By strengthening every link between the field and the consumer, Burkina Faso is working toward a future where agriculture generates value at every stage of production. Wheat is no longer simply a crop growing in rural communities. It is becoming the foundation of a broader economic strategy designed to create employment, encourage domestic investment, and reinforce the country's long-term goal of greater food security and economic independence. Burkina Faso's wheat campaign is about much more than producing larger harvests. Behind every new field lies a broader ambition, building an economy that is less vulnerable to forces beyond the country's control. In today's world, food shortages, rising prices, and disrupted supply chains can weaken even politically stable nations. By expanding domestic wheat production, Burkina Faso hopes to strengthen its ability to face these challenges with greater confidence. Every hectare planted with wheat represents more than additional grain. It helps reduce the need for imports, allowing the country to keep more financial resources at home instead of spending them on foreign markets. Those savings can support new investments in irrigation, agricultural equipment, rural infrastructure, and future farming projects. Over time, this creates a stronger economic foundation that benefits the entire nation. The impact also reaches beyond agriculture. As wheat production grows, demand increases for transportation services, storage facilities, processing plants, machinery maintenance, and local suppliers. Each of these activities creates new business opportunities and additional employment, allowing more families to benefit from the expansion of the agricultural sector. In this way, one successful harvest can generate economic activity far beyond the farm itself. Another important advantage is resilience during periods of global uncertainty. International markets are constantly affected by conflicts, inflation, climate events, and changing trade conditions. Countries that depend heavily on imported food often have little influence over these disruptions. By producing more wheat at home, Burkina Faso is taking practical steps to reduce that exposure and improve its ability to respond to future crises. Perhaps the greatest achievement of the campaign is the confidence it inspires. Every successful harvest proves that local knowledge, determined farmers, and coordinated public support can produce meaningful results. Wheat has therefore become more than a crop. It has become a symbol of resilience, self-reliance, and national determination. Each season strengthens the belief that true sovereignty is built not only through political decisions, but also through the everyday work of producing the food, opportunities, and economic stability that allow a nation to shape its own future. By this point, Burkina Faso's wheat campaign is no longer simply about increasing agricultural production. It has evolved into a broader national effort that connects farmers, researchers, government institutions, private businesses, and local communities under a shared objective. Each group plays a different role, but all contribute to the same vision of building a country that depends more on its own resources than on external support. The government provides policies, technical assistance, and investment. Agricultural specialists introduce improved farming methods and guide producers throughout the growing season. Private businesses supply seeds, equipment, transportation, and processing services. Farmers transform these resources into productive harvests through their experience and hard work. Together, they create a system in which every participant strengthens the next link in the chain. This cooperation produces benefits that extend well beyond wheat itself. Improved irrigation can support other crops. Better rural roads make it easier to transport agricultural products to local markets. Technical training increases the skills of farming communities, while new processing facilities create additional employment opportunities. As these improvements spread, they contribute to stronger local economies and encourage long-term rural development. Perhaps the most important outcome is the gradual change in national confidence. When communities witness successful harvests, expanding farmland, and growing local businesses, they begin to believe that progress is achievable through their own efforts. Development is no longer viewed only as the result of foreign assistance or external investment. Instead, it becomes something built by citizens working together with shared determination and practical solutions. The wheat campaign also sends an important message to future generations. Young people can see agriculture not as a symbol of hardship, but as a modern sector offering opportunities for innovation, entrepreneurship, and national service. This changing perception may prove just as valuable as the harvest themselves because it encourages more people to invest their skills and energy in the country's future. In the end, the campaign demonstrates that lasting sovereignty is built step by step. It grows through cooperation, careful planning, and the willingness of ordinary citizens to contribute to a common purpose. Every successful season reinforces the belief that a stronger nation begins with stronger communities, and stronger communities begin with people who are prepared to build their future together. As Burkina Faso continues expanding its wheat production, the country is pursuing more than higher agricultural output. It is attempting to reshape the way national development is understood by placing food security, economic resilience, and local participation at the center of its long-term vision. Whether this strategy ultimately achieves all of its goals will depend on many factors, including climate conditions, continued investment, farmer participation, and sustained public support. Yet, the direction itself has already attracted significant attention across West Africa. The campaign demonstrates that national sovereignty is not built through a single policy or one successful harvest. It is built through thousands of individual efforts working toward the same objective. Farmers prepare the land, agricultural technicians share knowledge, researchers improve seed varieties, businesses strengthen supply chains, and public institutions provide the support needed to keep the system moving forward. Together, these contributions create a stronger foundation for future generations. Burkina Faso's experience also reflects a broader discussion taking place across the Sahel region. Countries such as Mali and Niger have increasingly emphasized the importance of reducing external dependence while strengthening domestic production and regional cooperation. Leaders including Ibrahim Traore, Assimi Goïta, and Abdourahmane Tiani have frequently spoken about the relationship between economic independence and national sovereignty, making agriculture an important part of that conversation. The future of this initiative will be closely watched by governments, development experts, and international observers. Success could encourage other African nations to invest more heavily in local food production, rural infrastructure, and agricultural innovation. Challenges will certainly remain, but every season provides new experience and valuable lessons that can guide future progress. As Africa News continues to follow developments across the African Union, Burkina Faso's wheat campaign stands as an important example of how one nation is attempting to strengthen its future from the ground up. The story reaches beyond agriculture. It is about resilience, determination, and the belief that lasting prosperity begins with the ability to feed a nation using its own resources. France, Mali, Niger, West Africa, and the wider Sahel will all continue to watch how this remarkable journey unfolds. If you enjoyed this analysis, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. We sincerely appreciate your time and support. Every video on this channel is carefully researched, thoughtfully written, and meticulously edited by our dedicated team. We don't rely on automated production or shortcuts to create our content. Every story, every visual, and every detail is crafted with genuine care, passion, and a commitment to bringing you meaningful, high-quality videos.